What if the US government didn't just make contact with aliens? What if they sent people to live with them? This isn't science fiction, at least not according to a set of anonymous leaks that surfaced in the early 2000s. They called it Project Serpo, a top-secret exchange program allegedly launched in the aftermath of the Roswell crash. 12 American military personnel, 1 alien spacecraft, 1 destination, the planet Serpo, in the Zeta Reticuli system. It all started with an email. In 2005, a mysterious series of communications began appearing on a UFO researchers' mailing list. The sender identified themselves only as anonymous, claiming to be a retired Defense Intelligence Agency official. What they described was astonishing. After the Roswell crash in 1947, one of the surviving extraterrestrials, designated EBE-1, lived in US custody for years. During that time, communication was established with his homeworld, and what followed was a diplomatic exchange program. 12 carefully selected US personnel, 10 men and 2 women, volunteered for the mission. In 1965, they boarded a craft not of this Earth and left for a planet light years away. According to the leak, they wouldn't return for 13 years. But let's pause, because these claims didn't appear in a vacuum. In fact, rumors of Serpo had been circulating in classified circles long before the 2005 leak. Some researchers trace the origin back to Richard C. Doty, a former Air Force Office of Special Investigations agent, infamous in UFO circles for his murky blend of disinformation and revelation. Doty hinted at Serpo years prior, in the context of broader MJ-12 and alien contact disclosures. Was Doty planting a story or confirming one? And here's where it gets stranger. The details in Anonymous's emails weren't just wild claims, they were meticulously specific. Distances, dates, personnel breakdowns, even food rations and planetary gravity levels were outlined with surgical precision. Whoever wrote these emails had either an exceptional imagination or access to something they shouldn't have had. The Project Serpo official archive is still online today. It hosts the full chain of communications, timeline details, and cross-referenced materials from other whistleblower accounts. If you want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, the archive is linked in the description. What made the story so addictive was how grounded it felt. It wasn't just aliens. It was bureaucracy, logistics, mistakes, and human emotion. The leak claimed the Serpo mission was originally meant to last 10 years. But when the team returned, only 8 were left. 2 allegedly died on Serpo. 2 chose to stay behind. The rest came home, physically aged, spiritually changed, and sworn to permanent silence. Yet the US government never officially acknowledged any of it. No confirmation, no denial, just static silence. But it wasn't just the emails that stirred interest. Over time, small corroborations emerged, disconnected whistleblowers, vague overlaps in MJ-12 documents, and references buried in obscure declassified memos. Even timeline distortions were discussed. The Serpo leaks mentioned that time passed differently on the alien planet. What felt like 10 years for the crew might have been experienced differently on Earth. Some theorists speculated the team returned altered not only physically but temporally. If true, this would mean the mission didn't just test diplomatic relations, it tampered with the boundaries of time and consciousness. Skeptics, of course, wrote it off as an elaborate hoax. And to be clear, no hard proof has ever surfaced. But as with most black-budget stories, the absence of evidence doesn't mean absence of truth. It means we may be looking at the smoke, not the fire. Because what if Serpo wasn't a hoax, but a glimpse of something real, distorted, scattered, and leaked through layers of plausible deniability? And if it was real, then in 1965, a group of Americans boarded an alien craft and vanished into the stars. 12 left, only 8 returned. And what they found wasn't anything Earth had prepared them for. According to the leaked reports, the Serpo mission officially launched in 1965. when a Zeta Reticuli craft arrived at a secure location in the American Southwest. The team of 12 military personnel, hand-picked from different branches, trained in medicine, linguistics, engineering, and survival, were briefed, equipped, and told one thing above all: they would not return for a decade. Their destination, Serpo, the home planet of the Ebens, the extraterrestrial race allegedly involved in the 1947 Roswell incident. The journey to Serpo wasn't instantaneous. The crew endured a 10-month voyage inside alien craft that bent space in ways no human science yet understands. The details in the leak describe disorientation, confinement, and strange gravitational effects. Some of the crew experienced intense nausea, spatial hallucinations, and inexplicable time distortions. When they finally arrived, the world was alien in every sense. Serpo was described as a desert-like planet with 2 suns, extreme temperatures, thin atmosphere, and wildlife that ranged from docile to dangerously unpredictable. The Ebens, however, had adapted perfectly. Their cities were low-slung, built for functionality over aesthetics. Their communication was telepathic and musical. Their society, entirely communal, had no money, no war, no visible hierarchy. But integration wasn't easy. The team struggled with the atmosphere and fell ill. 2 crew members reportedly died within the first 2 years. One from an infection, another from an accident involving native fauna. The Ebens, while gentle, didn't fully grasp human psychology. Emotional miscommunications were frequent. Isolation set in, and time stopped making sense. What was meant to be 10 Earth years stretched longer. By the time the mission ended, it had been 13 years. And when the remaining 8 crew members returned to Earth, something about them had changed. They were aged beyond their biological years. Several reportedly died within months of their return. The official story, classified. These reports, and many matching details, can be found scattered across the Dulce book, an underground UFO and Black Project document compiled from decades of whistleblower testimony. Though originally tied to the Dulce base legends, it contains references to Serpo, time displacement, and alien-human cooperation. You can explore it freely via the link in the description. What happened on Serpo during those years is still shrouded in speculation. Some claim the mission failed to gather any useful tech. Others suggest the US exchanged more than personnel, perhaps even offering human genetic samples or data as part of a deeper agreement. Some theorists believe the Ebens were not the only race encountered. One member of the Serpo team allegedly described a brief encounter with another, more aloof species, taller, less empathic, and uninterested in Earth. If true, it suggests Serpo may have been part of a larger network, a hub of activity between races we've barely begun to understand. Another chilling detail: 2 of the original 12 reportedly chose to stay. No clear reason was given. Was it a personal choice, a spiritual one? Or were they unable or unwilling to return? Their fate remains unknown. Back on Earth, the government remained silent. No official statement, no classified document leak. The only record came decades later, when anonymous sources, retired intelligence agents, and researchers began stitching together a mosaic of testimony, speculation, and hauntingly detailed logs. One reason many take the Serpo story seriously is because of how mundane it feels. There's no dramatic galactic war, no utopia. Just culture shock, hard adaptation, and fragile diplomacy. It feels human. And in that grounded weirdness, the story becomes strangely plausible. Because if Earth had the chance to engage in an interstellar exchange in the 1960s, what would it really look like? Probably a lot like Serpo. There are even rumors, though unconfirmed, that the Serpo team brought back items, artifacts, environmental data, and perhaps even Eben cultural knowledge. But nothing concrete has ever surfaced. If such items exist, they're buried deep within the vaults of black budget operations. And yet, the whispers haven't stopped. New researchers continue to emerge, tracking down original players, cross-referencing timelines, even using FOIA to probe for traces. So far, all official requests return the same thing: nothing. But sometimes, nothing means you're looking in the right place. Because if this story was just a hoax, why did it mirror so many whistleblower accounts from the 70s and 80s? Why did Richard Doty, long before the 2005 leak, reference nearly identical details? And why, even now, are pieces of the puzzle still being found? So, was Project Serpo real? Or was it one of the greatest myths ever engineered to test public reaction, mislead researchers, or hide something else entirely? That's the question that has haunted UFO investigators for nearly 2 decades. Because while many want Serpo to be the smoking gun, others believe it was a psyop from the start, a carefully crafted blend of truth and fiction, designed to confuse, misdirect, and bury real disclosure under layers of lore. And that brings us back to Richard C. Doty, the infamous former intelligence officer tied to the early murmurs of the Serpo story. Doty's legacy is complicated. Some say he was a disinfo agent who planted wild narratives into the UFO community. Others believe he was tasked with revealing uncomfortable truths in ways that couldn't be traced. The Serpo story may be both, true in essence, false in form. Because when you step back, what Serpo represents is bigger than its details. It's a metaphor, maybe even a cover, for something deeper, that the US government has made contact. That exchange did occur, and that the version we're allowed to hear is the sanitized, obscured, mythologized version, just enough to trigger belief, but too slippery to confirm. This tactic isn't new. It echoes through other programs, MJ-12, Solar Warden, the Montauk Project, and beyond. Whenever the narrative gets too close to something real, it's either dismissed outright or buried in elaborate stories with just enough absurdity to discredit them. But here's the thing, Serpo never truly went away. Even now, researchers are still tracing threads that lead to matching mission profiles, corroborating voice recordings, and indirect mentions in declassified memos. Some accounts overlap with Serpo's basic structure: an exchange, a non-hostile species, travel to a distant world, the return of altered personnel. And some investigators have noted timeline inconsistencies between the alleged Serpo launch and other major UFO-related events, suggesting Serpo may not have been a standalone mission, but part of a broader, hidden contact initiative. The Serpo story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How many black-budget programs have operated without oversight? How much of our official history is carefully edited to avoid these truths? And if such programs continue today, what level of cosmic collaboration might already be in play? If even a fragment of Serpo is real, it means Earth didn't just make contact. It entered into relationship with beings from another star system, not as prisoners, not as test subjects, but as participants. What makes the story so chilling is how unglamorous it is. There's no galactic council, no grand revelations, just humans, alone, on an alien world, trying to survive, to understand, and to report back. And maybe that's what makes it feel so human. If you want to explore the raw documents that continue to stir debate, check out the Majestic Documents Archive. It includes breakdowns of the original transmissions, whistleblower testimony, and potential links to MJ-12. It's not just law, it's forensic history, linked in the description. So, in the end, what was Serpo? A lie? A leak? A mirror of a deeper truth? Maybe it's not about proving every detail. Maybe it's about listening to what stories like Serpo tell us about the world behind the curtain. A world where Earth is not isolated, but part of something much, much larger. If Serpo happened, then contact isn't a question, it's a fact. And if collaboration occurred in the 1960s, then today, that relationship may have deepened into ways we still can't fully comprehend. What's out there isn't just looking at us, It's interacting with us, and maybe always has been. So next time you look up at the stars, ask yourself not if we've made contact, but what we've agreed to.